there, wormies. Let's just come right out with it. Being around a disabled person is just awkward. There, I said it. But why is it so awkward and uncomfortable? Perhaps it's because kids are always hushed when they point and ask a curious question. It's normal to be weirded out by something that's unusual or different, but if you push through that initial awkwardness, it won't be so awkward forever, and you might just end up making a new friend. I'm Hannah and I have autism and ADHD. I make weekly videos rating the representation of autism and neurodiversity in the media, along with talking about some other hot topics in the neurodivergent niche. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to join the neurodiverse bookworm family so you don't miss a single recommendation. As I was watching the Netflix K-drama series Extraordinary Attorney Woo, I noticed 3 tips on how to communicate with and help disabled people without coming across as condescending. First, see us as equals. Don't talk down to us or use baby talk. I've seen so many autistics complaining of infantilization, people treating them as if they're kids when they're adults, and I hate it. Always have hated it ever since I was a kid when people would talk down to me and use baby talk as if I couldn't understand normal adult conversation. Talk to us as if we're normal adults, and please don't make assumptions. You never know who we are. Appearances don't mean anything.
잠시만요. 전화 좀 할게요.
여보세요?
여보세요? 아, 변호사님이세요? 안녕하세요. 저 송무팀 이준호입니다. 이번에 변호사님 모시고 병원 가기로 한 거 저예요.
아, 네. 오영우입니다.
우영우 변호사님.
Appearances shouldn't matter anyway. No matter how weird or peculiar we are, we're still valuable.
제 삶은 이상하고 별나지만 가치 있고 아름답습니다.
And please don't talk about us as if we're invisible. Talk to us, involve us in the conversation. And even if they appear to not be listening, a disabled person probably hears more and understands more than you think they might. So involve us as much as possible in conversations. It doesn't have to be awkward.
오빠 여기 웬일이에요? 이 아파트 살아요?
아니야, 일하러 왔어.
아 일이요? 무슨 일? 오빠 아직도 봉사하는구나.
봉사?
지금 나놀이 활동하는 거 아니에요?
아, 봉사는 무슨 봉사야. 아니야, 그런 거. 빨리 가봐. 나 늦었어. 오늘 가야 돼.
아, 네 오빠 반가웠어요. 화이팅!
Secondly, preserve our dignity as much as possible. When you see us struggling with something, don't make a big over-the-top deal of it. If you want to help us, you can do it in one of 2 ways. Ask us first. Don't just do things for us. Ask us first and respect our answer, whatever it may be, whether yes or no. Or do like Juno did, find a funny, lighthearted way to give them a workaround and enable them to do whatever it is on their own.
왈츠를 춘다고 생각하시면 어때요?
네?
회전문 통과할 때요. 그 리듬을 타면 쉽거든요. 쿵짝짝 쿵짝짝 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 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 쿵짝, 짝, 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 쿵짝. 자, 준비됐죠? 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝, 짝, 쿵짝. 지금이에요. 쿵짝.
Foster that sense of independence and don't treat it like it's something awkward or like we're little kids. Give us as much independence as possible and preserve our dignity as much as possible. We're people with feelings too. Above all, remember, we're people too. Third, don't be afraid of speaking directly and setting clear boundaries.
우리 앞으로는 고래 얘기는 시간을 정해놓고 하면 어때요? 아무 때나 하지 말고요.
아. 네, 언제가 좋습니까?
점심시간 어때요? 괜찮아요? 같이 밥 먹으면서 얘기해요.
네. 그럼 점심시간이 아닐 때는
고래 얘기 말고 다른 얘기하기.
고래 얘기 말고 다른 얘기 하기.
We may not always realize when we're being too much and that you need a break. So just tell us directly. I know I wouldn't be offended. I prefer people to be direct with me because I'm often worried that people are secretly annoyed with me and just too polite to tell me and help me figure out how to be a better friend. And of course, please tell us when we're doing good so that we can keep doing that. Because if you don't tell us directly, we're not likely to know. And it's very confusing because autistic people have a hard time reading social cues, and therefore people getting mad at us or leaving us sometimes seems to come out of the blue because we have no idea that we were getting on their nerves because they never said anything, which never gave us the opportunity to do something about it and to fix it. We promise we're not trying to be annoying. We're just very intense, sometimes too intense for ourselves even. I also talked with my friends at subreddit r/disability for a wider perspective on disabilities other than autism. Let's see what they had to say. I asked, how do you want people to interact with you without coming off as condescending? Mindy Starr said, to not act like there's something wrong with us or like they're shocked to see us in public. For context, I use a cane to walk, but without it, people assume I'm abled besides my gait. The amount of times grown adults, strangers, have walked up to me to ask, what's wrong with you? Nothing is wrong with me, I'm just disabled. What's actually wrong here is that accessibility is uncommon. The problem is not me. People need to learn that while they're curious, we are people and have a right to privacy and to not be hounded for our medical history. We're not interactive exhibits. Wheelchair user Phoenix Rezen says, for me, I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, and I'm 24. People think that because of my age, something must have happened for me to need a cane or wheelchair. It's entirely presumptuous, and those same people feel okay asking me outright, what's wrong with you then, when I tell them I'm not injured. People asking if they can doesn't bother me. In fact, I'm rather open about my disability with kids or even just people who are polite about it. Also, don't lower yourself to talk to me. Just because I'm seated doesn't mean you need to crouch with your hands on your knees like a child. And that's something I didn't realize before. I would have thought that it would be polite to get down on their level to avoid having them have to crane their necks up like this all the time to look at me, based on my experience of just being kind of short and having really tall guys stand what feels like toe to toe, and I want to back up and I'm doing like this, which it gets really uncomfortable. But in the ensuing conversation with this Redditor, I learned that it's perhaps better to take a few steps back, or even better, to sit down and have a conversation, but never crouch down with your hands on your knees as if you were talking to a little kid. Redditor Tarnagona says, "My number one piece of advice to non-disabled folk is ask, don't assume. You avoid a lot of the problematic stuff right away if you just ask me first and go from there. This applies especially in situations where someone wants to help, but equally for things someone assumes I can't do or enjoy, like using my phone or watching movies as a blind person. All the other stuff you said is important too, talking normally, treating us like equals and adults. And ask, don't assume is a great fallback for when you're not sure the best way to interact. The only caveat is that this piece of advice is not licensed to ask invasive questions. For example, asking how someone became disabled, which is their private medical history, or how they have sex, wipe their bum. Why do they think it's okay to ask anyone such questions? Maybe if your disabled friend has invited you to ask them anything, but definitely not for strangers you just met." Redditor monotropic _ wizard hat says, "Talk to me, not the person I'm with. That means don't say, 'Can you tell her it's time to go?' Say, 'It's time to go.' Even if the person doesn't use much language, or can't in certain situations, involve them as much as you can. There's a whole lot of other things that come under this situation as well. I don't think I can describe it all here. Don't link things that don't go together. This is part of not assuming. I'm talking about things like, you're so articulate. How can you need support to cook? It sounds ridiculous when you think about it. They're totally different skills. But people really say things like that all the time. And I so agree with the user I'm a brat influence. Don't tell us you're so brave. Like, ma'am, I'm just getting my hair done, just like you. I happen to also have a mobility aid. It's not that different from my glasses, and I don't see you telling every glasses wearer how brave they are for every little thing. Also, I appreciate people who get the door, but act pretty much exactly like they would if I didn't have my crutches. I wish more people would just take it in stride when my voice is out and I need to use my text-to-speech app. I lose my voice fairly easily and often since the plague. Some people are chill about it, some get really rude and demand that I speak, including doctors. If I'm doing something a little differently or it takes me a little longer, don't assume I need help or just take over. Ask. Be willing to take no for an answer. C_Rex77 says, "Mind your own business and go about your day." In all seriousness though, I've been obviously disabled since I was 8. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and later added diagnosis of AS. If you want to help me with a door or reaching a high shelf, just ask, "Can I get that for you?" Don't ask about my mobility aid if I'm using one. Don't ask what's wrong with you or what happened. And if you're approaching a child, don't act piteous. "Oh, you're so young." Compliment instead, like you would an able-bodied child. And I absolutely abhor being pitied. I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis around 13 years old. I don't need a mobility aid yet. Thankfully, my meds make me more or less able to function normally, but they're such a pain when I want to travel. But if I did need a mobility aid, I'd also be annoyed with so many questions about it unless the person were a kid or we'd built a rapport first, and it depends on my mood. With kids, I know they need to learn, and they don't know a lot, and how else are they going to learn? Adults should already have filters and more knowledge, so I have a little less patience. Redditor moist_fail_9269 makes another important point. Tone of voice is huge for me, so speaking kindly instead of rough and frustrated is helpful. I have a condition that has permanently damaged my brain, is taking my vision and my ability to walk. When I explain to people that the goal isn't to get better anymore, it's to just prolong me from getting worse, they get upset and sometimes angry that my goals of care have changed. Sometimes it feels like my able-bodied friends care more about me being around for their benefit and their feelings, and focus less on my comfort and feelings. I'm not happy I'm gonna die early either, but getting angry at me for picking and choosing which treatments I pursue and which ones I decline because they won't change my prognosis is definitely going to make it so much work. It's only as awkward as you make it, and with practice, you'll get more comfortable. I know from experience, going from a girl loudly proclaiming, well, I'll pick the girl with the brain tumor who's obviously disabled and doesn't have any friends to be my partner for this activity, to nowadays hanging around my blind friend and sometimes totally forgetting that he's blind and I might need to help him with something until he asks me. So thanks so much for watching. Click here to see another review, or here to watch a playlist of other videos I've made about Extraordinary Attorney Woo. And of course, don't forget to like, comment what you want me to review next, and subscribe so you don't miss the latest review.